Greetings to everyone. So, welcome to Real Talk Real Estate. So, today we're actually going to be speaking about how did Nong Wealth actually come through. We're going to be speaking about the entrepreneurial side of Nong Wealth, and we're also going to be touching a bit on the property investing side. So, last week Nell actually got interviewed. If you didn't actually check that podcast out, please make sure that you do go over that podcast. And then the previous week, I was the one, Lebu, who was actually getting interviewed. No,
I hope you can tell our voices from now that who's speaking. Yeah, but anyways, in terms of the podcast, we really want to speak about real stuff that hit home. We want to be as practical as possible. I mean, just to start it off, is that where does one begin when it comes to entrepreneurship? Whether it's property or whether whatever business that you're looking into. It's quite interesting, Lebu. I've come to notice that whatever business that you're getting, the cash flow that you're getting, and the lifespan of the businesses will differ from one to another. So looking at property investing, I'd like to put that to you. How is that actually factored in your game?
So when you're looking at property investing, right, I'm looking at property investing as a way of how do I actually put myself and my family in a better position. Well, I haven't actually started my family yet. However, I'm already thinking ahead that, okay, when I do have a family and I need a cash flow that I would actually be getting somewhere without me actually working, passive income. That's how I'm actually going to be looking at property. That how do I use property investing? How do I use the knowledge that I actually have to drive this traffic to me so that I have this cash flow that's actually coming on a consistent basis? And for you?
With what you said, man, I want to emphasize on something, especially people just hold on to the fact that I will not be working and I'm getting passive income, right? But now what does this really come with? That's something that we truly need to understand, because it's not as easy as getting a house, getting tenants, and getting your money. So what does that really entail when we're speaking about getting money and not really having to work? I want to truly understand that from your practical experience.
So when you're looking at property investing, right, it's not something that, I know a lot of people do this as it's just another way of parking your money somewhere, right? In order for you to actually be thriving in the property sector, you really need to have the entrepreneurial courage, right? To say that this is the property that I'm actually going to be buying. You need to actually have that drive that, you know what, if my tenants actually move out, I'm not going to be saying that since one tenant actually moved out, all tenants are bad. So now you also have to have this drive that entrepreneurs have, that, you know what, this is actually going to be getting better. Because now I can tell you right now, putting a team together isn't as easy as going online and saying that the nearest plumber and getting results from that, right? It's going through these plumbers that will actually come through, where you will actually be on a trial and error. Getting these plumbers, one doesn't actually do the work properly, however they're overcharging. On the other hand, the other one undercharges and doesn't do the work. So now how do you actually get that power team that will enable you to be right in the middle, whereby they don't overcharge you and they're actually doing the right work? So now you need to have that entrepreneurial spirit in you before you actually start going into the property investing thing, because it's not just like going to a bank and putting your money in. There's a lot of elements that actually go through with property investing.
I really want us to focus on where to start looking at it from a property investor, right? So there's so many people out there, from your youth to actually people that are about to retire, looking at how can they start their journey. So we need to be as practical as possible, that if you are to start, you need to actually look at the practicality of you owning the property. That's number one. So once you understand that, what is the practicality of me owning this property, we all know that if you want to be a property investor, emphasis on investor, is that we need to be investing in a property, right? So there's either two ways that we're going to go about it. It's either through credit or through cash. Now, even though we do have the cash, it's very important to still understand that we are investing in the right property. Because last thing you want is you taking your hard-earned cash, putting it in a property whereby you will not be maxing out when it comes to your returns. Same as credit. I truly believe that the youth need to truly invest in themselves when it comes to credit. From attending seminars to listening to credit podcasts and also credit content like we've been posting during the week, it is quite informative. The youth needs to tap into credit and truly understand the magnitude of credit. I know it's one of the things that have been very, very close to our hearts, Lego, and I'd like to actually put this on tape that with property investing, especially about where to start, it's not that I've always wanted to be a property investor and I want to own a house tomorrow. So I'm going to go to 20 investors, take their credit or take their money and then invest in a property. When we are talking about how would you actually package this, that one wants to start being a property investor and they want to go about it the credit way, what would you say are the key elements that they need to focus on, and also the reality of how long it would take?
Well, firstly, something that I would actually like to emphasize is that when you're looking at going into property investing or increasing your credit score, I think you should really look at the video that we actually posted earlier on the week. I think that would be actually yesterday, whereby we spoke about how to actually improve your credit score. First thing is that you need to actually get your credit score checked right now. Check where you are right now and see what elements do you actually need to improve so that you can actually put yourself at a better position. Number two is that you need to ask for a loan right now. I understand that you might not actually have or need any loans right now. However, it's always good to know that when you do go to the bank, it's not going to be a hassle in terms of how much you actually need from the bank. So I'll give you an example. With us right now, we have a credit card. We only use the credit card for fixing properties. It does happen sometimes whereby the properties are actually fixed and they're on the market. I don't use the credit card in that particular point in time, right? Or when I'm actually looking for a deal, I'm not actually using my credit cards. So now in that way, you need to keep your credit card active so that they can actually increase your credit limit. So now the problem becomes that a lot of people don't actually use their credit cards or ask for that particular loan. So now if you're not asking for that loan, that basically means that you're not actually increasing your credit limit, which ultimately means that when you do need the money, the bank is going to be looking at you and saying that, you know what, you haven't actually taken any credit in the past 6 to 1 year. So now how should we actually trust you? So I think something that you need to actually start doing is to actually start actively increasing your credit so that you are able to actually borrow money from the bank. And then in terms of how long does that actually take? When you're looking at building your credit score, it roughly takes around 6 months. I know with me, it took me 6 months to actually build my credit score to a point whereby the bank was actually comfortable with me getting that particular loan. I might be lucky. So with me, it took me 6 months to actually build my credit score. Okay, so now with the credit score in check, right, I would like to really backtrack, right? I'd like to really backtrack to a couple of years before we actually started Nong Wealth. So now you are at the Department of Higher Education working, right? So now, how did you feel when the news came to you that, you know what, I think that we should actually leave corporate and start our own thing? Were you at that point, were you thinking that we're just going to do a couple of things and then we're going to be rolling in the money in about 1 or 2 years?
The thing about entrepreneurship is that we were exposed to entrepreneurship from a very young age within the family and also growing up. So I knew that it takes a whole lot of patience, and it won't happen overnight, especially if your heart is not in there. So I knew that when you told me that, now let us go into property investing, I knew that I had to put my heart in. So at first, I don't want to lie and be like, since when I was 1 year old, I always wanted to be a landlord. It wasn't a thing for me. I guess even grade 11, it still wasn't a thing for me. Even varsity, it still wasn't a thing for me. But then I knew that I was going to be in business, and it's quite interesting that I already had what I wanted to speak about, so I'll just align it with the question that you asked. Hopefully that I'll be answering you, is that I got to learn the different type of businesses and how property versus the e-hailing system. So then I got to understand that with business itself, you need to understand, is it going to be short term, mid term, or are you playing the long game? So that's what actually grabbed my attention towards property investing, and it was a no-brainer for me that I need to get into property investing. So the practicality of property investing is not getting 1 million in one day or 1 million every month and from your rental. The practicality of it is falling in love with the content, understanding the different strategies, understanding your credit score and where you fit in this property game, and then maxing out on that. So I got to understand, what does it feel to get 1,500 as cash flow positive. I got to understand, what does it feel to get a phone call from a tenant at night when the geyser bursts. I'm getting to understand right now, what does it mean to actually work with a whole team on a project. So that is what I'm in love with, and I haven't second guessed since.
Okay. On my side, right, I want to be totally honest with you and the listeners. On my side, when I actually was convincing you that, you know what, I think we should actually leave corporate and start our own business, I thought that it was going to be easy. I mean, I've been studying business studies in varsity. I also did it in high school. So I was thinking that there's step 1, step 2, step 3 to success. Only to find out that when I was actually in the space in terms of being an entrepreneur, that's when it actually hit me that, you know what, maybe things aren't so easy whereby you're going to have step 1, step 2, step 3. Sometimes you find out that in step 1 there are 6 more step 1s in that particular step 1. So now I think for most of the people that are actually sitting at home right now, or wherever you are listening to this podcast and asking yourself that, you know what, I think I should leave my job right now, really think about it. That is leaving your job right now an option that you should actually be going into? So for me, it's like what we normally say with Neo, is that if you would ask me that, would you do this again? I'd say yes. Would you recommend it to someone to do it? I'll definitely say no. So now the question for me was that, how now do I, when I actually say that, you know what, let's leave corporate and start this business, the question was then that, how do we actually figure out how to go into property investing? Because that was the ultimate goal. I remember when we started e-hailing, we were saying that it was going to be a medium-term business, whereby it's not going to be so long-term, until the drivers did what they actually did. So now that's when we actually went into property investing. So I think that for every entrepreneur right now, or someone that's saying that, you know what, I want to leave my job and become an entrepreneur, remember, you are losing a 9 to 5 for a 6 to 6. I want you to always remember that.
I like how you put it, losing 9 to 5 for 6 to 6. And you know what the thing is with 6 to 6? Everybody will get paid first except you.
Yeah, and sometimes it does actually extend from 6 to, it goes until 9, and sometimes it goes until 12. So
when you're saying 6 to 6, you're literally saying 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. and then it starts again at 6 a.m. It ends again at 6 a.m. So that's the practicality of being an entrepreneur, especially starting your own brand, because there's a lot of sacrifices that you do, and be in love with what you're doing, guys. Truly understand what you're doing and where you'd like to take it. Then you'll only love the fruits of what you're doing. For us right now, we're having a ball, man. We're having a ball, man.
Now, can I ask you, right?
Yeah.
When was your aha moment within the journey that you've actually had right now? When was your aha moment that, you know what, I think what we're actually doing, there is something there?
For me, it's every time. It comes every time when I'm speaking to somebody who's been looking at our content, and they be like, you know what, I'm so inspired by you guys. I actually learned 1, 2, 3, 4, and I still want to learn more. The team that we have, when we're having meetings with them and they be like, we're exchanging notes. You know, when you interact with somebody and then you get to truly understand the magnitude of what you're putting down, that's my aha moment. It comes every time. It's not based on materials that are offered to purchase or getting the cash flow positive. Every time I interact with somebody showing us love out there, the aha moment comes back, man. And then for you?
I think the aha moment for me was when we actually released our first video in terms of property investing. I mean, if you haven't checked out our first video, you can check out our first video on YouTube. The aha moment for me was when we actually started posting content, because for me that was that at that particular point in time we hadn't actually established Nong as a brand that will be actually teaching property investing. However, the aha moment came to me when we actually posted our first video that we could actually reach a wider market looking at property investing, especially if we're going to be posting content. So I didn't need to come from a wealthy family. I didn't need to know any person that was in property investing. I didn't need to be in some sort of society whereby we're sharing things. I only needed to actually start that brand of Nong and start posting videos on YouTube, and then people will actually find a community will actually be built around that. So for me, posting of videos was a way of me actually reaching a wider gap that, you know what, if someone is not able to actually afford to invest in themselves in terms of property investing, maybe this is something that will actually motivate them that, you know what, there's so much that I actually need to learn in terms of property investing. So with me actually looking at these videos on a frequent basis, this might be something that will actually motivate me to say that, you know what, if these two young guys can actually start investing in property at this young age, maybe I can also do that.
And I want that to be the narrative, that people should be looking at themselves and then they should look at us and say, but if these guys can do it, why can't us? Why can't I do it? So I really want that to be a narrative, that use us as a case study to push yourself, that if these guys can do it, so can I. Like, we really trust in you guys, and we've done it. When I'm saying that we've done it, I'm saying that we have taken all the burden and given it to you in a content form, and you don't have to go through the struggles that we went to. So I really enjoyed today's podcast, and next week we will be interviewing somebody, and hope that you guys are really enjoying this. Looking forward to more of this.
Thank you for tuning in, and make sure that you actually go onto our live tomorrow on Saturday, 1 p.m. Nong
signing out.